Hey guys, and welcome to the Daniel and Mark show. Today we're going to be talking about whether you need to take a break and how you can plan around those breaks so that you can go further in the long term. Daniel, how you going?
Good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, good. I suppose before sort of digging really deep into this topic, I suppose what are some of the hobbies or things that you've taken a bit more seriously, like in the last couple of years, where you've spent a bit of time on it.
I would say kind of the more prominent one most recently is just been on the bike with the boys, like actually cycling.
Sure.
Now, I'm the most typical guy. I promise you, Marky. Anytime I'd drive past a cyclist, I'd be like, get off the road. What are you doing, you idiot? You know, just so
This
judgmental as some old man wearing Lycra.
this is now, or this was before you were cycling?
Previously, I should
Okay.
say, previously.
Yeah.
And now I get it. I get it. If you look at any cycler, especially when you're
The
riding
cyc
past them,
the,
they're
the
always
cycling
happy.
or the cycling or the lycra.
Well, both actually. Because like when you're cycling, the reason I guess we do it is because we experience different things. It's very freeing. You get that sense of freedom, and it's kind of like that low. It doesn't hurt your body as much to do a lot of cardio, which is really good. And you get to be with the boys, and it's a real good experience.
Yeah.
Um, But I'll tell you what, when you're going fast, you want to go even faster. So I get why people start wearing Lycra. And I'm thinking about it. I might turn up in Lycra on the potty monkey. I'm thinking about it, man.
And what do you I mean, the lycra is the easy part. Actually, maybe the hard part, but um, but what would you say? What would you say is like the most challenging thing about like cycling in the beginning when you kind of sort of work up from like just riding around the block?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm really lucky. Like Dill is incredibly thorough with his research.
Yeah,
And that's kind of what I'm working on at the moment is trying to be more thorough with everything I'm doing and more inquisitive.
yeah,
And he kind of taught us all the um, like the details of actually writing. Like it's actually quite complex.
yeah,
Like the different form, the form that you have to have. Like if you're going on a longer ride, your dietary requirements will change. Like you have to get your carbs and your sugars, all this kind of stuff,
yeah,
your electrolytes and stuff, and it's all actually quite complex when you try and take it to that next level because biking or cycling or just I'd say anything is enjoyable nonetheless if you're just doing it. But if you're doing it well, the better you can do something more, the more you're going to enjoy it.
yeah.
That's what we found over time.
So let's say I buy I pick up I decide I'm going to get into cycling. I fork out
Sure.
$500 or $600 and I go, fuck it, I'm going to take this seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's like some tips or what's like some of the likely things that I'm going to come across in my pursuit of sort of like that 1 hour ride or 1.5 hour ride? Like what can I expect?
Your butthole's going to be hurting like a motherfucker. Dude,
Okay, that's good.
so bad. Until
Is
you
that
get,
is that because
huh?
of the shape of like the more sporty like cycles?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. The shape of the seat is like, it's not built for comfort, it's built for like speed and stuff like that. So,
right,
um, you got to find a seat that does both, which usually doesn't come default. But you also got to then wear this bib. It's called a bib where it's got padded things on your bum, and you
yeah.
look like I call myself the home brand Big Show.
I don't know. I'm imagining like nappies or something for like extra padding
Literally,
for your butt.
it's
Oh,
it's pretty much a nappy, but it's like a leotard, so it goes over the shoulders as well.
right, right.
Right. It's
So it
but
keeps everything tight.
real like almost too tight. I'm being
Okay.
completely honest, almost too tight. But
Yeah.
when you're going on kind of those
Longer
lengths, it
ride.
makes a real big difference. So I would
Yeah.
just say like do your research and then check your form. There's going to be a little. For me, there was like a lot of neck pain and back pain stuff like that. I was it still is sometimes. I'm incredibly inflexible, and
Mm.
B, my form was terrible, which is still being fixed
Yeah.
now. So you don't
That's
get it right, but you change it continuously, and the
that's
part of changing it is part of the
I
the good
find I,
thing.
I find that fascinating because that sort of what you're talking about there is inefficiencies that aren't a problem over like shorter periods, but it's becomes a major problem like over longer endurance periods, and that
Mm,
applies to probably any sport, right? Like
yeah.
running, jogging, AFL, whatever it is, even martial arts or whatever, right?
Mm,
If you have these inefficiencies, you don't address them early, they become really problematic.
yeah. I'd say like it even goes to like I guess life in general. Like one
Yeah,
thing we talk about at hardcore, like how many times do we talk about, the details, the
yeah,
small things? Because if you don't do the small things well, it's kind of like I don't know what the example is called, but if you've got a straight line and this is you doing everything properly, and
mm,
then you've got another line on top of it, and these are you just making those small mistakes and not doing the details. And in the beginning, it's a
yeah,
very small difference, but as you go out through time, those differences, uh, you know, the gap widens and really increases, and then that's when you have major problems. So the details are incredibly important.
yeah,
You know, they
yeah,
domino and compound into larger problems if you don't get the small things right.
yeah. And they tend to rear their head when you pick up the intensity as well, right?
Oh
So
yeah,
I like the immediate example I can think of for me personly is boxing. So I've learned the basics over the last like 6 to 12 months, but I'd say really after like 3 or 4 months, I just got into muscle memory of doing the same bad habits. So like I'd
mm,
established a baseline, but I was doing more or less of the same thing. So unless you're working with a coach that is constantly correcting you, in the class environment, you're just often doing like bad repetitions over and over and
mm,
making it more problematic. So 12 months later, I'm no better than I was 3 months ago. And a
mm,
perfect example of this is after throwing what you call the lead hand or the jab, right, which is the hand closest to your opponent. You throw a jab and then your hand always falls, so that leaves you open in your face, and you don't feel like you're doing it as much as you're actually doing it until you actually get hit in the face while like doing a bit of sparring, and you're like,
sure.
that's
Yep.
like that's like the best example of like, all right, I don't keep my hands up as much as I thought I did
Yeah,
because you
yeah,
get
for sure.
reminded. Yeah,
Yeah, and then like one punch will be all right because the opponent won't throw, but when you have the
yeah,
opponent that does continuously,
yeah.
your ass
It's
is
a
going to
quick.
sleep.
Yeah, so in that one sparring session, I probably learnt more than I did in a year because I actually
Far
took
out.
because I took those because I took like those rules more seriously.
Why'd you start boxing in the first place?
Uh, I think it was I think it was I previously did like I call boxercise, which is like boxing exercise, and I just found it was a good way to do cardio without it being really boring.
Mm,
So I remember I was just like, hey, I can just sort of pick up and learn how to do something that I've been interested in the past, learn
mm,
how to do it correctly, but also get like a good workout in.
mm.
So it was never to like, get into professional like fighting or anything like that. But, never say never.
Oh, is that a?
Just joking. I'm like,
Oh,
oh, Grandpa Melburnian is hopping into the ring.
start calling out Conor McGregor and shit.
Yeah, I'll do my debut at 40.
At 40. Dude, that is an intense. What other hobbies have you got other than like boxing?
All
What's
right,
some
so
things?
another example is deadlifting. So
I'll
I
have a look
previously,
at him.
yeah, I've been lifting weights for like 10 years, right? Like obviously I've had lots of breaks, but when I got really into it, I had really good gains, and the main reason why I stopped was I just kind of didn't have a really strong why. But in terms of
Mm,
progressing and seeing change, I saw heaps of it. Uh, but 10 years on, I thought like I kind of had a pretty good idea of how to do a deadlift.
mm.
And my friend who's actually like doing personal training just like corrected the shit out of me the other day. And it was like a humbling experience. So
Yeah.
it's like it's like you playing like Call of Duty for like 10 years and then like a professional going, hey man, you're just like, you've got no idea what you're doing. Like you need to do this, you need to do that.
Mm,
But it's so
yeah,
good though.
yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
So people are so specific in what they know, and when they do have that kind of knowledge, it helps out the people who just kind of do it
Yeah.
a hell of a lot. Yeah, one of you just talked about Call of Duty there. One of the things for me that we play at the moment in the house is like Age of Amps. A lot of the things that are kind of like my hobbies, they always involve like a majority of them involve like the boys and stuff like that,
Right.
or someone else. I just like doing things with people
Yeah.
in specific scenarios, and then sometimes I just like to be by myself. But
Yeah.
one thing we have at the moment is called Age of Amps. It's like a video game.
Yeah. It's a real time strategy game.
Ooh, she's
Yeah.
intense. She's intense,
You've got your
boys.
you've got
Telling
your
you.
you've got your troops, you farm, you've got like different resources, and you build up your armies from those resources, and you go to war, right? That's
Yeah,
essentially like the short version of it.
that's the short version. You're trying to wipe out another opponent doing the exact same
Yeah.
thing. So that's the short version. But there's a lot of game theory kind of that needs to take place for you to be able to win a game if you're playing
Yeah.
someone good. And
Here's a
it,
question for you.
go.
Do you learn while you're playing, or do you feel like you learn more when you step away and you think about how that game went?
Yeah, well, definitely the when you step away,
Yeah.
because it's like you're already, I guess, micromanaging 100 things. It's
Mm.
then difficult to like think, oh, I should have done this then this then this then. Like
Yeah.
I always try and I guess review how I've just been absolutely destroyed by
Yeah.
someone, and then like what the hell just happened.
Do you physically like go back and watch your game like replay sometimes, or
Nah, I don't do any
okay.
of that. But I
Yeah.
do watch some footage and some gameplay and some strategy on YouTube.
Yeah.
I like the pros and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and it helps a lot.
Yeah. I'd say both of those things work, right? Like watching pros and trying to copy them, but then also going back and watching how you actually play,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
without
yeah,
the
sure.
pressure. Yeah.
There's a major thing that I keep getting caught out on is I don't kind of widen my view of the
Yeah.
game so people can set up close to me and I don't realize they're doing it. And by the time they're set up, I'm done. So it's
Yeah.
like watching a pro, like that's obvious.
Yeah.
You know, that wouldn't even allow them to happen in that game. But when I'm playing,
Yeah.
it's like I need to be watching that back and go, oh, that's a major flaw. Fix that
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
And did you like, and in Call of Duty or like any of your other hobbies, did you ever feel like um you were showing up and you were putting in the hours, but you weren't putting like enough emphasis on improving? It was more just kind of getting the reps in, and maybe you could have done it smarter.
Um, I'm sure that it is there. I'm
Yeah.
sure that if I wanted to get better at it, then I would have, I guess,
Yeah.
grinded and done a little bit more research and stuff like that. But I just didn't. Like, it was like a when I was playing Call of Duty for a majority of the time I played Call of Duty, it was just something to do with my hands while I was like reading a book or something to do with the boys. Like you get a little bit better by practicing, and you also get kind of better by other people teaching you certain things.
Mm.
But although we try and get better at a lot of things and everything because it does make it more enjoyable, I didn't want to spend the time trying to get really good at Call of Duty because it
Yeah. Makes
like
sense.
I
I
just
guess
didn't
that's
really. I don't really care.
Yeah, I guess that's probably like maybe like a good segue into like the original topic that we had, which was like taking a needed break, or not taking too long of a break,
Sure.
so that like you can continue to progress. Have you ever found like taking a break from something and coming back expecting to be way worse, but you actually found that you were better, like coming back?
Right. Um, I'm not going to be able to give you a specific example of what,
Yeah,
but what immediately comes to mind then is
yeah,
like if if you take a break from something and then you kind of learn in different areas, you can use that different kind of knowledge and adapt it to what the previous thing you're doing, which will make you
yeah,
better overall.
yeah. I
Um,
agree. I agree,
and
100%.
I'm sure people can relate to that pretty easily. So,
Yeah,
like the best way I can kind of describe it, not so much in a hobby, but in like I guess a knowledge sense,
yeah,
is for you to be able to understand whatever A is, whatever B is, you must know A.
Yeah.
So for you to be your best at B, you got to know what A is. So do A first, then you'll be better at B.
Yeah.
And although sometimes, like we talk about a hobby, it may not happen purposefully. It happens,
Yeah.
automatically.
And like, let's say like with your cycling, with the running, with your video editing and that sort of thing. Uh, do you think breaks are important? Like, and do we
Um,
need to have them?
I think the macro answer is yes, you
Mm.
do. But the nuance I kind of always go to is if you don't enjoy something,
Yeah.
you're going to need like more breaks from it.
Yeah.
So with the majority of things we do for hardcore, like I don't, I like this podcast, I can do it every week. I can do it three
Yeah.
times a week. The Hang with Hardcore podcast, I can do it three times a week. I love doing it.
Yeah.
Editing, it's not my favorite thing in the world at the moment.
Yeah.
So sometimes I go crazy at it, and sometimes I'm like, God damn. But the caveat to that as well is some things need to get done. So you need to do
Yeah.
as much as you can and just smash it out. And then when you need a little break, restore properly. And what do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah. I think there's a difference between sort of taking a break and procrastinating and actually taking a break because it's going to, sort of uh, help you recover, right? So
Yeah.
perfect example of this is, it's somewhere in the middle, right? Like if you're training 2 days a week, you're running 2 days a week, or you're video editing, an hour a day for twice a week, and you think you're going to become the next, pro or up and coming person, then
Mm,
you're simply not putting in enough hours. You're a bit diluted there,
sure.
right? But at the same time, you look at professionals like, let's say, Canelo or whatever, right? His routine will be training 6 days, but he still has a day where he does absolutely nothing, like no
Hmm.
weights, no nothing, and that's probably not just for his body to recover, which he needs because of the intense training during the week and the sparring sessions and the strength training conditioning, but it also gives him time with his family and like to actually have space outside of his routine, right? Most people think, oh yeah, I go to the gym, it's probably an hour. At this professional level, they're training like 6 hours in the gym every day and they're getting
Mm,
up like super early. So that's they're actually pushing their body for, 5 or 6 times as long as the average person every single
yeah,
day.
absolutely. I think that's kind of the complete picture there is where for a professional athlete, every single part of their life is on purpose.
Yeah.
And train makers, majority of our lives on purpose. Like if we need rest, it's for a reason. It's because we need to rest. So Canelo
Mm.
spends time with his family and he rests on his rest day because it makes him a better fighter.
Yeah.
It allows him to compete at a higher level. Because if he was kind of ignoring the family portion of his life, he would have some
Mhm.
sort of turbulence there, which would make it harder to concentrate on fighting, right?
Yeah.
And
100%.
if if he's just not having a rest day, his body may just not be able to keep up with, I guess, at all, not be able to compete at a high level because he doesn't have enough rest.
Yeah.
So that's an obvious one.
Yeah, for sure. I think like sometimes it's like it could be like not necessarily a rest from work too, it could be a rest from people. So like, you're just kind of creating, you're saying no to plans so you have more time
Mm,
to wind down or like to actually, sort of create space
mm,
between like the different hobbies that you take seriously. So, like if you say yes to all your family plans and you say yes to all of your, hobbies and all of your, all your like professional stuff, it sometimes that can kind of wear you down. Like I know, like we've talked in the past where, we love our family, but sometimes if you have a lot of plans, it can feel like it's taking away from your like, your day as well. So
mm. No, absolutely. There's
yeah.
a Naval quote I might be paraphrasing here, but it's
Yeah,
like a busy calendar and a busy mind will destroy your ability to create anything great.
I love it.
You know,
That's
so
awesome.
it's I think that's pretty much close to the exact quote.
Yeah,
But if
and
you're, yeah, go, sorry.
oh, he's big on sort of not filling the time, and because of his busy schedule, he'll try to turn phone calls into he'll try to turn phone calls into like emails, and he'll try to turn emails into he'll try to turn phone calls into like text messages, and text messages into like emails or whatever. So it's like, sort of shortening,
Mm.
condensing what conversation it is into something simpler if it can be done
Yeah.
that way.
I like the idea, like Naval talks about again, like as he's saying in that quote, like busy calendar.
Yeah.
He's also said have a busy calendar, but nothing in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're always too busy for a coffee date,
Hmm.
even though you have nothing else on.
The
And that kind
caveat,
of,
the caveat there though is if you're signing for something, if you're working out an agreement that day for that coffee, then he will do it. If there's a
sure,
specific like outcome from that coffee,
sure,
yeah,
absolutely. But I think people are, they're so scared of missing out that they won't do something. So it's
yeah,
like they think that coffee is the most important thing, where it's like, is that the most important thing, or did you need to spend time with yourself and just like I have worked out not in recently as in like the last weeks or something like that, but the last say year
right,
that I need more time like alone than you. Like
yeah,
usually I could be the limelight, be around people all the time.
mm,
No, I need a majority of my time just by myself.
yeah,
And that allows me to kind of be my best when I'm with other people. And if I'm
yeah,
around too many people all the time, I
mm.
lose myself a little bit, which is not good.
Yeah. It's almost like it allows you to have a stronger sense of your own energy, right? And if you spend more time alone when you go and you meet with other people, you're not sort of being swayed by other people's energy, and you can kind of, sort of have a strong sense of where you stand.
Mm.
Whereas, like, sometimes, as an introvert, you might find you start sort of becoming like a bit of everyone, which is not necessarily bad if you're around good people, but you still want a strong sense of self, right? So
Yeah, it's a
that makes a lot of sense.
balance. Yeah, it's genuinely a balance. I'm still working on at the moment. It's like I pushed so hard in my previously to kind of
Yeah,
evolve myself into a completely different person. So
yeah,
now I need to find the balance between that new person and my old self.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
You know,
I
and it's difficult to do while you're around other people because you incorporate, as you just said, them. It's like you need to
Yeah,
find you because that's when you're best, and that takes a lot of thinking and all the rest of that crap.
yeah, particularly like if you're doing like you're working on something new, right?
Mm,
I think let's say you're getting into video editing, or you're getting into the practice of like speaking on camera. If you seek out other people who are doing the same things, you might emulate a very similar style to somebody else, and maybe you don't want that. You kind
mm,
of want your own space to feel out like what your approach is, and what you want to strive to be,
mm.
like, independent of other people.
This is very interesting for me. Last night I was at like a family event for Shay's family, and more
Mm,
often than not, like I'm kind of the, especially previously, I'm the you know extrovert. I'm out there making sure everyone
right.
else is having a good time. I'm creating the vibe, etc., etc. And I've noticed myself just not wanting to do that recently. Just
Yeah.
like in the last year, just step back and again, even with speaking, like I've always wanted to be the one saying something, making sure I'm getting it out there. And it's not so much as like I can't create the value, but sometimes I think the value is more in just listening and not saying something.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
It's kind of, if you don't say anything at all, then you're also not contributing. But then you want to find that balance of being more thoughtful,
mm,
before you contribute, right? So it's like,
mm,
how do I kind of listen and understand what people are really asking, so that when I do say something, it lands on ears that are more willing to listen.
And I think people have a difficulty with change. So it's like when you're changed as a person,
Mm.
or you're changing, or you're trying to find what's going on, if it's not what they expect, it's different and it's weird. So
Yeah,
they kind of treat it with like, what the hell is going on? Like, there's something wrong.
yeah,
It's like, well, I'm just doing different things. Do you know what I mean? I'm trying to work out all those answers. So maybe
yeah,
the new me doesn't speak as much,
yeah, yeah,
is what it is.
and I think, like, like, if we want to progress, we need to constantly try to add something that most people don't already know, right? Like, we're constantly trying to present or find or be critical of whatever we're doing, and come at it like at a from a new perspective, or like from a trying to push that thing a little bit further. And perfect examples at the start of the video, you said Dylan sort of takes things a little bit further when he does his research. So that might become like, there's a balance in that, because if you become obsessive, you can take too long on like the small things. But generally, that's a good trait. Like,
Mm,
if you care about something, you just go a little bit deeper, so
yeah.
everything about it. Um, I'm just thinking, like, just to switch gears a little bit, like, what's I guess, like, I'm a little, like, I'm really interested in this idea of like taking breaks and whether it's necessary and that sort of thing.
Mm.
Um, what's been like what's like at the front of your mind when you think of times where you've had to take a break, or where you've been forced to take a break?
I think automatically back to like the really hard grind stage,
Yeah,
where like nothing, not that none of it was fun, but it's not exactly all enjoyable. You know, working that many hours consistently sucks, to be honest with you.
yeah,
So I think I should have probably taken more uh, actual breaks. So
yeah,
my problem when I was younger was I would work, always had a decent work ethic. I would work hard and I would put the hours in. But when I
mm,
would, rest, my,
yeah,
I would justify it as being a chance to go out and have way too many beers or something like that.
right,
And it's like, well, you're not actually resting.
mm,
You're just out. And sometimes maybe that's necessary. You're going to go out, socialize, do your thing, etc., etc.
yeah,
But for a majority of those times, I would say I was actually just, kind of creating more stress on myself for the next week and the next, the few days after, because I was more tired and et cetera, et cetera. So
yeah,
the first things comes to me is like, you didn't rest well enough. So those are the periods where I would say actually just step away and sleep if you're tired and stuff like that, or
yeah.
you know,
What would you describe that period? Was it kind of like working an extra like 10 hours or 20 hours a week, or like in your day job? Was it um, was it kind of like working on your like studying and researching, or like what did that period look like for you when it felt like a really big grind?
yeah, sure. So it was when I was working in Nando's, I guess the end period of Nando's.
Yeah,
I can't specifically remember the hours, but I was probably working in between 40 and 60 hours consistently.
yeah.
And
And
then,
was that
sorry,
like was that like 20 like was that like 20 hours more than you were previously, or like,
like
or
it
had you
was,
sustained this for a while?
there was the beginning of the journey, Nando's, I guess. So, like,
Yeah,
I was a degenerate working, like an absolute walnut, working like 15 hours a week or working
yeah,
10 hours a week here, missing shifts, doing this, doing that, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah.
Like, so,
Because it's important to note too, like, it's easy now when you're conditioned to it, but going from like 15 hours as like a 17-year-old to like 40 hours, that's a lot for someone
yeah,
who's like 17.
yeah.
I think once you kind of do a year of it, you kind of get accustomed and you want to do more, but that's a big transition.
Mm. And then working, that 10, 20, 30 hours on the side, studying
Yeah,
and stuff with Dill at his house for until I moved in there. And then when I
yeah,
moved in there, everything kicked up again, and I was working.
I can imagine.
Yeah, just going kind of the next level again, where it was like, I think was I at toll at that stage? I was driving, which is not allowed to do now, but I was working, like 60, 70 hours at work driving, um, and then coming home and, doing again 10, 20, 30 hours on the books and stuff like that,
Yeah,
just to smash it out and get it done. Like, but it was necessary for that. I'm incredibly glad that I got it done, and I'm
yeah,
glad to say that I am capable of that.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it
Well, that's it.
was not the healthiest of all the things.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like when you're young, you need to sort of push yourself to see what what your limits are and what you can actually do, and then you sort of look back and try to sort of focus that same intensity, but in a more smart way, right? Like, how do you deploy your time and efforts, but like in a more smarter way?
There's a great TikTok on the Hardcore Headstart TikTok that explains exactly what Marky is talking about. It's by Jordan Peterson when he's on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Little pluggy there.
Yeah, we got to plug. We got to plug that TikTok. Jump on a TikTok, please.
Get on there if you haven't already.
Exactly. But that, yeah, kind of explains what Marky's talking about in a little bit more depth. It's phenomenal from Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, cool. I think like when I think of breaks, the main reasons for taking breaks are usually based around like injuries. So like for a lot of sports, it's
Okay.
sort of you either like roll your ankle or you go a little bit too hard, and your body kind of like hits you back, and like you go out to do your regular run and you feel something like impinged in your like hip or whatever,
Sure.
and you kind of go, oh, I could do 15Ks yesterday, I probably can't do 15Ks today,
Sure.
like, but it's usually compounded of like kind of ignoring like the small problems. There's always like signals that come up to it, but you're just like, because you're so like, I'm on my grind, baby, and like that like mentality
Yeah.
leads to that. So I think injuries, getting sick, so like catching a flu or like a cold, has always kind of set me back like 2 days, like at the minimum, because I kind of go, yeah, I can push through this, but really you're actually working against your body recovering, and you can actually make the symptoms last even longer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are probably the two main things, and then the third thing might be like something that just comes up where it's just like a demanding like deadline from work on a project, or let's say like there might be like a video you're trying to edit that needs to be done by Friday or whatever. That sort of thing that comes up can set you back a bit. But like, yeah, I'm interested. Like when that sort of thing happens, do you have like I'll cover off like one or two things that I've picked up from other sort of influencers or
Mm-hmm.
things that work for them. But have you got anything that you've tried or that works for you in terms of taking breaks?
I have a bad habit of not.
Yeah,
So, like, even going back to when I was younger, like playing football or playing anything
yeah,
like that, like, I would get knocked out and continue playing. Like, I'd do my knee and continue playing.
yeah,
And it's not smart. Like, it sucks. A fable or a stupid friggin' wives' tale that I used to, like, live by when I was younger is if you get sick, you, like, go for a run and you sweat it out.
yeah,
I'm like, that actually doesn't make sense now, obviously, right? So
yeah,
I guess how it's kind of slightly evolved, it genuinely depends on how I'm feeling. If it's a little thing,
yeah,
then I up my supplements and I do my normal life, and I usually kick it pretty quickly. I really don't get sick.
yeah,
Injuries one is now I'm learning to not push it to that next level, to not do more damage.
yeah.
But for a long time, I've just ignored it and go
Okay.
stop being a bitch and keep going.
But what, like, let's say if you're hungover one day and like the next day you can't do the same routine you've been doing.
Hmm.
What do you do there?
Nah, that's self-induced. So you get the fuck
Yeah.
up and you keep going.
But are you able to? So you just try to get as close to the previous lifts as you can,
Sure.
or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever the performance is, like it's not going to be as good just
Yeah.
because you've put yourself in that situation. But
Yeah.
and when you look back on that, then you're going to be able to realize like, oh, it wasn't as good. So you have to you have to kind of plan, I guess, for that.
Yeah.
Like, don't do that if you have something coming up the next day. But
Yeah.
I've when it comes to the maybe hangover or anything like that specifically, if it's self-induced,
Hmm.
then that's on you, bro.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
get back
True.
to work.
Well, I think I might have a bit more of a balanced approach, or at least I'm trying to sort of deploy that a bit more.
I have a feeling you
Um,
do.
and like I've got more of a mindset of like I suppose when you train hard, but like if there's a setback, recognize, be aware of that setback, and allow yourself to have a break so that you can go harder as soon as you're back at 100%.
Hmm.
So it might. I don't think there's a right or wrong. It's just kind of figuring out, like, and listening to your body. So, if anything, the whole lesson out of here is kind of being in tune with, what your body is capable of, and if you're at suboptimal levels or like you're not performing at an optimal level, then you need to, sort of analyze what's going on.
Hmm.
And yeah, for me, like two tips that I've come across was one was from a coach who has something called the 30% rule. Now that 30% rule is simply, if you get injured or if you catch COVID, for example, right now, right, where a lot of people probably will, and that's likely to set you out, set you back maybe like, anywhere from like 2 days to like a week, right, or whatever. You're better off cutting back your workout to 30% of your normal intensity.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're currently working out 6 days a week, then that means you just cut your sessions back down to 2 sessions for that week.
Mm-hmm.
And, your intensity, obviously will be sort of like, you'll scale back a little bit. You might train at like 70 or 80% or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
just a little less. Yeah. And you might do that for 2 weeks until your body's like fully recovered and you feel like you can do your lifts, your runs, your training at
Mm.
100% again. And then you'll actually find that you can continue your training as if you never had that setback and you continue at the same levels. Whereas like if you push through that period and you train at 100% and you still try to get like 4 sessions out or 5 sessions, you'll probably do it, but you'll probably do it with inefficiencies, and then find yourself being sick for 2 weeks and then
Mm.
actually taking a whole month before you get to the level you were at pre-COVID,
Mm.
like as an example. So
I think it makes sense.
yeah, and
Um,
this, oh yeah, go on.
I think the major, I guess, highlighting thing is the like how bad are you actually? Like, are you actually sick?
Yeah,
Where if you don't take that break, you're going to be out for 2 weeks,
yeah,
or if you just got like a little sore throat, or you got,
yeah,
I mean, we got COVID now, so apparently you got COVID if you got a little sore throat. But if you got like if you got like a little sniffle or something like that, like
yeah,
be honest with yourself, because I personally have found sometimes
yeah,
um, that me pushing through, I felt better immediately.
yeah,
You got obviously you got the blood flowing, you got the adrenaline flowing, et cetera, but it didn't deteriorate me any quicker. It was just like a little, almost lack in motivation, which made me
yeah,
feel a little bit down. So I think there's a
yeah,
major difference between kind of actually needing a break
yeah.
and you just being, well, a bitch.
Yeah. Well, you'll get that feedback like the next time you train as well.
Hmm.
So if you're sort of training at like 80% and you take a day off, you train again. If that 80% is getting easier, that means your body's probably adapting quickly.
Hmm.
But if it's the same or worse, then that's probably your body telling you, you know,
Sure.
you need to
Yeah, yeah.
slow down.
What was your second one?
The second one was the 2 day rule. So it's something that Matt Diavella has coined. And basically, you're looking at not taking more than 2 days off in a row. So
Mm-hmm.
you can allow yourself 1 day if you need it. So let's say you've got a job interview or something that you've has come up and you, just for whatever reason you can't continue your usual routine, you
Mm-hmm.
can allow yourself 1 day off, and then the next day it's getting back into it. So if you combine those two rules, you never take more than 1 day off. See how you feel the second day. Turn up, show up, do your workout, and see how you feel. If it makes it worse, then you can look at sort of the 30% rule. Otherwise, maybe the 1 day rule's a better rule.
Mm. Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I think there's some really good points for people to kind of look at and assess throughout their own lives, see what's going on.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Shall we wrap it up there?
I think so, mate. I think so.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning into another episode of the Daniel and Mark Show, brought to you by Hardcore Headstart. Please like, comment, share it with your friends, subscribe, and click the notification bell to know when we upload.
Ding, ding.
Oh, look at you. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Catch you guys. Bye.